go back, yeah, is going too slow to achieve economic autonomy. I felt that having invited me, and given that I'm an economist, given that the law faculty has invited me, I felt that we would have had the legal perspectives, we would have looked at issues of governance, etc., and that you really wanted from me the whole notion of pathways to autonomy from the perspective of an economist, and given what you read from the perspective of the Caribbean Center for Competitiveness. So in terms of my outline, what I will speak to you on today is, I thought it necessary to, certainly from my own perspective, I took a few minutes to ask myself and to answer, what does autonomy mean to me? I then thought it was necessary to answer the question in terms of why do we need to have a conversation, or why is this conversation important now in Trinidad and Tobago? And as I ponder on that, it's 50 years of independence, and you know, the notion is, for that conversation to have meaning, we need to be able to assess where we are as a state 50 years post-independence. And then to ask the question, are we where we really should be? Could we have been in a different place if we had done things differently? And at the end of the day, having kind of, you know, touched on all of these things, to make some recommendations for what I think we need to do in terms of accelerating the issue of economic autonomy. So, what then is autonomy? Autonomy to me is determination of one's own sustainable destiny. And that then can take on any number of dimensions, any number of ways we can focus on it. We could look at the issue of governance and ask ourselves 50 years after independence, are we on the road to sustainable self-governance? And given the current environment that we are in my view, really brings home the crisis of governance that the Trinidad and Tobago economy currently faces. It's a crisis of governance. In my view, Dr. Kublal Singh's fast has long gone past the issue of simply rerouting a highway. It is now the issue of governance. Of what kind of governance do we as an independent nation, do we as individuals expect from those who govern us? What are we prepared to do in order to achieve that? Because it is more than what we expect from those who govern us. It is also about what are we prepared to do in order to achieve that. And that in itself, I believe, is a long discussion we can have. You have not invited me to discuss that, so I will leave that one. And I will turn to the issue of governance. So in my view, this notion of having the strength to be able to push against all odds, to determine your own purpose and your own goal, is what the discussion needs to be about. So why is this conversation, and I will focus on the issue of economic autonomy, which is about the issue of being able to look after ourselves and able to ensure that we have strong institutions, ensure that we have a strong private sector, that we have a strong environment within which the business of economic development and growth can take place. So, why is this conversation important now? And to do that, we'll go immediately to the next slide. Let's take a bird's eye view of the Trinidad and Tobago economy. We are a hydrocarbon economy, oil and gas, mainstay of the economy. Take a look at its construction. Look at it, between 2002 to 2012, I'm showing you. And look at what has happened with our dependence on one major sector, oil and gas. You will see 2002, it contributed 24% to GDP. It increased in 2006 up to 55% and it declined slightly to 42%. And that decline is not because we have been aggressively changing the structural arrangement of our economy to ensure that we are less dependent on oil and gas. That change has simply taken place because we have had decline in the production of oil. We have had fall in the price of oil and gas. In the more current situation, we have a situation where most of our plants are in maintenance mode. And even that is something that we need to have a conversation about, that it is so coincidental that for the first time in our history, so many of the hydrocarbon plants on the estate are undergoing maintenance. That again is a whole conversation we can have, but this is our reality. Is this, and sustainable reality for Trinidad and Tobago? Is this a reality after 50 years of independence? Looking forward will take us to where we want to be in terms of being a self-sustaining economy. And I take you now to the next slide because I think it is important to look at what it have been, 59 or 58% of GDP, and take a look at it and look at the different sectors, the major ones that we have contributing to the growth of the economy. Look at agriculture. We're in an environment where we're talking about global shortage of food, where we keep chanting the mantra of the importance of self-sustainability in terms of food production. 2012, agriculture contributes less than 1% to GDP. Manufacturing has stayed at 9% for a very, very long time, possibly well over 15 years. There has been no growth here. The only growth that we have, areas that we are seeing growth currently, is in financial services and in the distribution sector, in the retail sector. So we're really very good in Trinidad and Tobago at buying from the rest of the world, adding a markup and selling to ourselves. So is that the platform on which sustainability can take place? So 50 years of independence, and these are some of our realities. Now there have been good things, but I have a short time, so I'm not really going to talk about the good things because those good things we can celebrate at another time. If we want to have a different future, we need to focus on what we're not doing well and chart a way in terms of what we can do and how we need to do it. Over the last 7 years alone, we have had government expenditure of approximately $300 billion. 300. Can you even conceptualize how much money that is? Maybe we would have been better off if we had taken that money, divided by the population of 1.3 million, give everybody their little piece and tell them do what they want with it. Maybe we would have had poverty less than what it is today. Who knows? But that is the reality. These are some of the other realities. In terms of competitiveness, I had the Caribbean Center for Competitiveness. We have fell in the competitiveness ranking, and the major issues that account for that falling out: corruption, productivity, crime, government bureaucracy. These are the things that we are really doing very badly and are significantly hindering our capacity to rank higher on the global competitiveness index. Spoken about decline in oil production. We're in an environment where the LNG market, the international market, is in glut. We're largely a gas-producing economy. LNG international market price is at bottom low, in the peak of the boom, we were getting about $13 per MMBTU US for gas. We are now getting less than $2 per MMBTU. And we are faced with shale gas that is significantly more competitive. We are faced with the fact that the United States, which is our major market, is now the largest producer of shale gas. We are getting close to where a lot of our plants, multinational plants, with plants all over the world, are coming close to where they need to renegotiate and decide whether they will stay in Trinidad and Tobago. This is not their markets. What are the things they will consider in making a decision moving forward? These are all the things that we need to think about. So we have had contraction in most of the non-energy sectors, rising food prices, global shortage of food. We are a net importer of food, $4 billion annually. We have been talking agriculture but doing very little with respect to agriculture. Rising debt to GDP ratio, it is now 51% of GDP and climbing. 4 years of budget deficits, rising unemployment. We have an implementation deficit. We have a real inability to be able to implement. And we have what I call institutional overload, which again in itself is a conversation that we can have. We have in Trinidad and Tobago over 100 state enterprises. State enterprises set up for the purpose of helping our economy to grow. Institutions which we the taxpayers finance, but there is no accountability, no transparency on what they do, how they do, and for whom that they do. So where are we going? Well, you talked about Vision 2020. Vision 2020 identified 7 new growth sectors. This new government has turned that into 6, but when you look at it and you look at the breakdown of the 6, they have about 10 or 15 under each of them. and not much difference. More than 8 years now we've identified them. What has happened in that 8 years? We've set up special purpose vehicles. We have put a lot of money into it. But when you look at where these new sectors have gone, they have gone nowhere very quickly. Why my topic is we're really going slow and we're doing it really too fast. So where should we be? And in trying to tell you where we should be, I felt the best way to do it would be to show you a place that has actually done it. Because we don't need to reinvent the wheel, you know. We do not. There are other countries confronted with the global financial crisis, other economies with the benefit of oil and gas that have, as a clear policy decision, done differently. And I'm going to share one experience with you so that you can understand where we should have been. And we go now to the case of Dubai. And I'm sure it's a name that all of you know. It's a country that belongs to the United Arab Emirates. A very small economy and very similar in many ways to Trinidad and Tobago, with the exception possibly of the last category. In terms of population, they're 1.7 million, we're 1.3. Not so much more. In terms of size, they're actually smaller than we are. 4,000 square kilometers to our 5,000. In terms of GDP, their per capita GDP, they're way ahead of us. 48,000 to our 25. The average growth rate over the period 2000-2006, 17%. Ours was 9%. We weren't doing so badly. Post the crisis, we had oil and gas and the price was very nice and buoyant. So we were doing well. But look at the post-crisis period. Look at it now. Look at 2011 to 2012. Their growth rate is 4%. Ours is minus 1%. And the claim of the Minister of Finance, in my humble view, that we will have a 1% growth this year, I believe is an overly ambitious one. The one difference is in terms of the type of government. There's a constitutional monarchy, ours a parliamentary democracy. Is that why Dubai has done what it has done? But these are just some figures, you think? Yeah? These are just some figures. But let us take a more, let us look again. The Dubai economy, Trinidad and Tobago, oil and gas economy. And do you think that it is an oil and gas economy? That's what we all think it is. But contrary to popular belief, it is not dependent on oil and gas. And if you now go to the other slide, this is the structure of the Dubai economy. Oil and gas actually contributes only 6% to its GDP. I can't read it, this background icon that I have here. Look at it. Look at tourism. Look at financial services. Look at trade. Look at property and construction. Not by chance. Not by chance. By design. Not by chance, but by design. And so that you know that I'm not just talking off the top of my head, this was Dubai, 1990. You can change it now. This is Dubai in 2007. It's kind of blurry, it's not a good production, my apologies. Go to the other one, let's see. This is Dubai. This is what it looks like. Go to the other one, yeah. And this is Dubai. In the 1950s, it was a fishing, dependent on fishing and a declining pearl industry. 1960s, it discovered oil and gas. At that point, it became the major contributor to its GDP. But it understood that it would eventually be depleted and it couldn't build an economy based on that. So what did it seek to do? It sought to use the money that it got from that in order to create a different kind of economy. And so, but just note that it was affected by the crisis of 2008. We'll talk about what it did in a minute. There was decline in the property and construction economy, but in tourism, trade, and the retail sector, those remain buoyant. And if you go to the other slide now, you will see. These were the pillars. I hope you can read it clearly. The background may have here. It shows as it designed a visionary approach to what it wanted to do in terms of the diversification of its economy. And it was based on tourism, financial services, IT, building a knowledge economy, and real estate. It made a strategic decision that these were the areas it would focus on. It didn't simply talk about, say, okay, we want a tourism economy like we do in Trinidad and Tobago, and then we don't do anything else. It made a decision that it would focus on high-end quality tourism to become a high-end quality tourism destination. It was a desert. Dubai was a desert. It still is, but it is a desert that looks like this. I don't know, before we see what it looks like. Financial services, major growth sector. IT, it set up some specific free zones, the Dubai Internet City and the Dubai Media City. It didn't just do that. It then built a knowledge village, an education system that would feed into that IT sector. So it linked its education system into where it wanted to take the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. How do we design curriculum in Trinidad and Tobago? How do we design? Where is the link between what the University of the West Indies is doing and where the economy of Trinidad and Tobago is going? Where is the link between all of the national scholarships that we give on an annual basis and the development platform for Trinidad and Tobago? We have scholars who come back, and I am tired of bemoaning this. They come back because they go out and we pay for them to go study. Yeah, they do very well, they study whatever they feel like, and they come back and there's no job for what they have studied to do. And then we put them to push paper. We put them, not a teaching is not a noble profession. But we put them in a high school to teach the brightest of our bright, maybe, but that's what we actually need in a high school system. But that again is another conversation. The point is that there's no link. There's no link that says, okay, I am prepared as a country, I'm prepared to use to develop my human capital. This is where I'm developing this ICT sector, so therefore in this year, my scholarships that I'm given is for that. So that I develop a cadre of experts that I can bring in at the end of a few years while I'm putting down the infrastructure to come in and be able to build that for me. That's the kind of link and connection that we need that we don't have. So this is very important. Real estate, again, not just any kind of real estate, you know, high-end real estate. Let's just take a look at what it looks like. The next. This is Dubai. Tallest building in the world. I think there's some place else now that is doing one, yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Next one. This is the kind of architectural build. This is what you're going to see. It's a tourism attraction in itself. But it is part of the real estate. This one is the hotel, yes, as well as real estate. Indoor ski resort in a desert. So, this is the kind of design. Not just people building anywhere they feel like, any old how. Construction on a plan with an intended purpose. Construction with a plan with an intended purpose. The recreation of the world. Man-made islands reconstructed to look like the globe. So, when we stop and we see, and if you could just move this from it, we stop and we see, we're only 50 years old, we're a young nation, takes time to develop. I say hogwash, because we don't have time. Because Trinidad and Tobago is in a race, and it's not about how we do it, although that is important, it's about how fast we do it. That's the reality that we face now. And we're not just competing with developing countries in Africa, you know. We are competing with the United States of America, we're competing with the United Kingdom. I was at a dinner last night at the British High Commissioner's house, and a minister was there, and he's looking for opportunities for the UK. This is not anymore a case that we are just a victimhood and okay, we're small and we need to continue to have preferential. All of those things are now behind us. They are now behind us. We need to reconstruct. We need to construct a future that is driven in an understanding that we need to do it fast. And we need to do it in a sustainable manner. And the way that we're currently going, it's not happening, and it's not happening too slow. So these are my recommendations as I close for you. To begin with, we need a vision. Vision 2020. The process was a very good one. What we ended up with was not what we should have ended up with, unfortunately. Let's go back there. Let's go back to that, because it is the brightest of the bright of Trinidad and Tobago that actually did all the technical papers. Let's go back to there. And let us see what has happened since then and update it. And let us craft a vision. We do not currently have a vision for Trinidad and Tobago. What is Trinidad and Tobago going to look like in 10 years, in 5 years? Do any of you know that? You know? The same as it is now, or worse. But we do not have that. We need that, and we need it quick time. History and smallness no longer guarantees preferential treatment. We know that. And even with the current EPA that we have, we may have the Europeans going back to that because of what is happening in Europe and their ability to give. We know foreign aid is declining. Foreign direct investment, the Obama administration is incentivizing its manufacturers to come back home and create jobs for Americans. That is the reality. So we are in a race, not just against the small guns, but against the big guns as well. Time is not a luxury in this game for economic autonomy. What? Oh, you went to my conclusion. Go back to my slide before, sorry. Yeah. So we need a vision, which is that big macro thing that we could all hold on to and say, yes, that's what Dubai did. Dubai painted the picture that I showed you a long time ago. So its people, they were all working towards that. They were all working towards the ski resorts in a desert. They were all working towards this ICT sector that can create employment. That's what they were all working towards. And then we need a plan of action defined through robust analysis. We can't just identify, we can't just have a little stakeholder engagement and say, okay, the next new growth sector is fashion. And what? Or the next new growth sector is the creative industries. Full stop. And then we set up a new company that people in the direct players themselves are arguing does not reflect or involve us. If you do not involve me, how can we crafting a future for me? Who gives you that right? Again, we come back to the issue of the crisis of governance. We need sector strategy plans. As in the case of Dubai, it didn't decide to do everything and be everything to everyone. It focused on a few key sectors and it developed its economy around that. We need a political will to implement it, to do more than talk it. We have a lot to talk. We're really very good at that. We need to protect, and this to me is extremely important. We need a mechanism, and I'm hoping that we have a lot of lawyers here that can really help us with this. Because to me, the issue of constitutional reform is probably what we need to be talking about here. We need to protect the long-term plan. You see the kind of economy that, in terms of the governance structure for Dubai, ensure that you have a plan and you can work it for 15, 20 years. In our case, if every 5 years we change our government, then we're starting all over again. Even if we don't really start over again, we're dismantling everything that exists and we're starting over again with our own people. So how can we ever really get the thing done? We need to find a way to protect that. To protect our long-term development and that the people of the country agree is where they want to go and where they want whoever governs them to take them. But I note this, it must allow for refinement and response to exogenous shocks. Things happen. The world does not remain static, so there must be a mechanism to allow for refining and for change. We must have, very important, accountability and transparency. I'm done, because that's it. And now I go to my conclusion, which is that smallness, it don't matter, Dubai is smaller than us. We're in a race against the big guns. Time is not a luxury in this game. What will be the conversation 50 years from now? We have to decide what that conversation, will it be that I mean, we can't be probably by then. My daughter or my son standing on this platform, because that's my vision for them. I don't know about the rest of you. What will they be on this microphone saying to you? Will they be showing you pictures like I just showed you? Or will they be showing you pictures of an agricultural sector that's contributing less than 1% to GDP, a manufacturing sector that is declining, construction sector that is on death's door, where it's really predominantly foreign contractors that we have the capacity to bring in, and whenever we look for experts and we look for consultants, we look foreign. Who will decide that? That's food for your thought.